Jason went back to his room feeling nothing but emptiness. He is used to being rejected by people wanting to adopt. No one wants a 6-year-old stinking boy, with flaky scalp, and dry and itchy skin for a son. Mindy, the social worker handling Jason's adoption, is having a hard time matching him to couples. There were instances when couples took a chance on him, but he was always sent back to the orphanage. All of them said that he has one alarming and unhygienic trait. Jason does not take a bath. He's a kind-hearted and bright kid. The only bad thing about him is his unpleasant odor, but Mindy cannot blame the child. A year ago, the orphanage was in the brink of financial ruin, which led to the management letting go of several people. Heavily understaffed, the orphanage welcomed volunteers to help take care of the children. Sally was one of the volunteers who was assigned in Jason's floor. She was charming and exuded a vibrant aura. The people running the orphanage praised and thanked her for all her hard work, despite being just a volunteer. But little did they know of Sally's true nature. Whenever she is alone with the children, she turns into a wicked and sadistic person. If she is not immediately obeyed, she hits the children with anything within her grasp, which may be a shoe or a broom. She also throws them things much to her delight. There were instances that she slaps the children on the face. Sally finds gratification and satisfaction when she sees the children crying and begging her to stop. But the worst act that she did was when she bathes the children. Since the orphanage is running low on budget, the consumption of electricity and water was limited. Sally thought of a twisted plan. During bath time, she puts water on a 70-gallon plastic drum, and submerges the children one by one. All their dirt are accumulated in the water, making it dark and murky. Most of the time, she forcefully pushes the children's head into the water. She always laughs when the children shake or wiggle their hands upwards, trying to free themselves. But she experienced extreme pleasure when Jason takes a bath. Before submerging inside the drum, he always cries and pleads not to immerse him fully, because he is having difficulty breathing. Sally always promised that she'll not do it, but she does it anyway. One time, Sally suddenly covered the drum while Jason is bathing. He tried to remove the cover but she was too strong for him. Sally just kept on laughing hysterically. She was still holding the cover when Mindy and some of the social workers came rushing in the bathroom. Apparently, the children can't stand Sally's maltreatment anymore, so they sought the help of the social workers to put an end to her madness. They didn't inform the management at first, because they are afraid that if the volunteers are gone, the orphanage will close completely, and they will have nowhere to go. Mindy grabbed Sally's hand while the other social workers restrained her. Some of the children helped Jason to get out of the drum. Since that incident, Jason was afraid of taking a bath, or even washing his hands. Most of the children got over what Sally did to them, but Jason is still traumatized. No one can make him take a bath. He would rather stink, than to relive his nightmares all over again. Kathy screamed as one of her classmates grabbed her cell phone from her hands. The librarian immediately approached them, while the other students in the library glared. Her classmate returned the cell phone, and she ran quickly out of the library. She went inside one of the empty classrooms. She sat on a chair and cried, holding her phone to her chest tightly. She told herself that she must not lose sight of her phone at all costs. A week ago, Kathy did not care much about her cell phone. She's annoyed by the texts and calls of her parents, whenever she is out with her friends. She usually just put it inside her bag, or simply turn it off. But one fateful day, Kathy wished that she has her phone on her. She and two of her friends are strolling in the mall. They're going inside different shops, and fitting several dresses for the coming holidays. They got tired and decided to eat in one of the fast food stores. They were eating when Kathy noticed two men looking at them, who appear to be in their late 20s. They're wearing leather coats and jeans with matching sunglasses, which is odd. She didn't mind them, thinking that they're just looking around. After eating, they continue going to the other boutique shops, but the weird and suspicious thing is, the two men seems to be following them. She informed her friends about the two, but they don't seem to care. The mall was about to close when they decided to go home. Her two friends were already picked up by their respective parents, while Kathy is still waiting for her father outside the mall. Then out of nowhere, the two guys from earlier approached her. Kathy freaked out. The two men are forcing her to come with them. She struggled with all her strength. She stepped on the foot of the guy grabbing her, then ran to the trees beside the mall. She hid in one of the bushes, holding her breath. She was looking for her cell phone to call her dad, but she can't find it in her bag. This made her panic even more. She checked her pockets, but it's not there. She searched the ground desperately. And finally, she found her cell phone lying nearby from where she's hiding. Feeling hopeful, she immediately reached for it. But to her utmost dismay, the phone's battery is dead. She cried in fright and most especially, in disappointment. The men saw her and hurriedly ran towards her direction. One of the guys grabbed Kathy and punched her in the stomach. She was losing consciousness when her dad, together with some mall guards, came to her rescue. Apparently, her father kept calling her when she wasn't in their meeting place. He got nervous and asked for the help of the mall guards to look for her. Fortunately, they managed to find her in the nick of time. The two guys were arrested and questioned. The police learned that they are notorious for kidnapping girls and selling them online. When Kathy regained consciousness, she was on a hospital bed, with her parents by her side. She hugged them and cried. After that incident, Kathy swore to have her cell phone always by her side. Everywhere she goes, she has her phone hanging around her neck. It is now her lifeline. Dr. Cora Wilson is one of the most highly celebrated obstetrician, or OB-GYN in the country. She is the founder and the head of the Obstetricians and Gynecologists Association of the state. Her colleagues look up to her, and always consult her in critical, or life-threatening medical situations. But just like other rags to riches or success stories, she has endured hardships and trials to get where she is right now. In fact, during the first year of her residency, she was always belittled by the other residents and her superiors, because of her poor performance. Her life made a 360-degree turn after their medical mission in the Philippines. They held their mission in one of the provinces in Visayas. Cora didn't have difficulty dealing with the people, because they were welcoming and hospitable. She only had a problem with the weather, because it was too hot during the day, and too cold at night. Also, Cora was quite bothered by an old woman with long white hair, because she was always staring at her, as if watching her every move. She tried to ignore her, but her presence is truly bothersome and annoying at some point. But little did Cora know that the old woman will be her savior. On the last night of their medical mission, she needed to go to a certain town to follow up on one patient. Transportation was limited at night, so she walked the bumpy and rocky road alone. It was dark and eerie. She only had her flashlight to guide her on the rough path. She had this weird sensation, that someone was staring at her from one of the tall creepy trees surrounding her. She panicked. She hurriedly walked and didn't stop even for a second, despite almost losing her breath. Then suddenly, she heard a loud sound coming from the sky. It was a strange and fearful sound. It sounded like enormous wings flapping. Cora ran as fast as she could. Then after some time, the sound grew softer and fainter. She felt relieved and stopped for a second. She was catching her breath when suddenly, sharp claws clamped into her shoulders, and lifted her way up high into the sky. She was horror-stricken. She screamed, crying for help. She struggled, trying to release the grip from her. But as she tried to free herself, the claws went deeper into her skin. After minutes of flying, they landed in front of a nipa hut located in the middle of the forest. Cora was horrified when she saw what carried her. It was a viscera sucker or a mononingal. It was the most gruesome and terrifying creature that she had ever seen. It's vampire-like, and its wings are huge and bat-like. It has long white hair and its darting red eyes that kept looking at her, as if ready to devour her any moment. It has an elongated proboscis-like tongue. What's more horrifying is that it only has its upper body. Its lower limbs are missing. Blood is dripping from its exposed entrails. Cora threw up upon seeing the horrendous sight. Then she gasped when the lower half of the body walked past beside her. It walked towards its upper body and connected itself to it. She was stricken with fright. She feared for her life. Her dream to become an OB-GYN will end in a few seconds, she thought. Then unexpectedly the viscera sucker, now with upper and lower body connected together and transformed back into its human form, approached and talked to her calmly. Cora slowly raised her face. She was eye to eye with the woman. She recognized her. It was the old woman who kept on staring at her during the medical mission. She was shocked. The woman assured Cora that she will not take away her life, but instead will give her a new one. A life that she had longed for. Cora got confused. The woman said that she was dying. She said that she stopped eating fetuses, babies in human intestines years ago, which made her body weak. Her ability as a viscera sucker or a mononingal must be passed on to someone, or else, it will be a total waste and will be lost forever. Cora fearfully refused. The woman said that the moment she saw her, she smelled desperation and powerlessness emanating from her body. She sensed her hunger and desire to take revenge on the people, who have belittled and treated her like a trash. Cora was speechless. Her fear slowly faded, as her realization of what the woman said started to dawn on her. After minutes of deep thinking, she finally agreed. The old woman became ecstatic as she began to puke black sticky saliva from her mouth. Cora stepped back a few feet away, when she saw something moving from the woman's mouth. It's a black chick chirping. The old woman handed the small chick to her, and told her to swallow it. Cora hesitated. But the black chick went up to her arms, then forced itself inside her mouth. She gagged as she clasped her throat. She fell on the ground as her body trembled. She felt heat circulating her entire being. After a few minutes, she stood up and felt reborn. The old woman was unconscious on the ground. Then suddenly, her body started to be consumed by fire, until it turned into ashes. After that incident, Cora gained inhuman capabilities. When she returned to her residency, everyone was surprised by her sudden metamorphosis. She has become the top resident, and eventually made a name for herself. She can determine immediately and with great accuracy the condition of the fetus, or the baby inside the mother's womb, because she can smell its sweetness even from miles away. If there is any slight rotten smell, or a hint of bitterness or sourness coming out of the mother, then there's something wrong with the baby. And from a viscera sucker's point of view, the baby is not healthy to be consumed. To satisfy her hunger and craving for human entrails and babies, she goes to the morgue at the hospital's basement. When she feels she needs to transform into a full-blown viscera sucker or mononingal, she does it in the secrecy of her own home. Life did change for the better for Dr. Cora Wilson, after all. The Gumiho, or Gumiho, is a nine-tailed fox spirit. In Korean tradition, foxes that have lived for 1,000 years, accumulating a great deal of energy, turn into Gumiho. The Gumiho is similar to other fox creatures, such as the Japanese kitsune, and Chinese huli jing. Though they have similar magical abilities and longevity, the Gumiho is more malevolent than other fox spirits, because it is the only fox that kills and eats humans. It can freely transform, among other things, into a beautiful woman, often set out to seduce boys, and eat their liver or heart. The Gumiho has a Yotsuda, which literally means fox marble or bead. It is said to consist of knowledge. According to Korean mythology, the Yotsuda provides power to the Gumiho, and knowledge to people if they can steal and swallow one. The Gumiho can absorb humans' energy with it. The method of absorbing energy with the Yotsuda resembles a deep kiss, or a kiss using a tongue. The Gumiho sends the Yotsuda into people's mouths, and then retakes it with their tongues. Mi-young wiped away her tears as she blankly stares at the vast ocean, while seated on her airliner seat. The murdered bodies of her parents are still etched in her mind. She cannot forgive the people who killed her beloved mother and father. She wanted to put justice in her own hands, but she's forced to honor the death wish of her parents. That if one day they will lose their lives, she must flee at once and seek the aid of her older sister abroad. Mi-young is trying to hold her ground against the harsh reality. She must be strong for her parents, as she starts her new life with her sister, Cho. She was welcomed by her sister with a gloomy heart at the airport. She explained every detail of the fateful night, when their parents were murdered. Cho let out a grievous cry then hugged her sister tightly. They walked towards Cho's car at the parking lot and drove to her residence. Cho owns a nursing facility. It is the best nursing home in the city, because it offers outstanding services and world-class amenities for a low cost. All the elderly are well taken care of by well-trained nurses and nursing aides. What is also unique about Cho's facility is that they have free embalming, crematory and memorial services. People put their elderly loved ones in nursing homes, because they cannot take care of them themselves. And the harsh reality is, most are just waiting for them to die in the presence of non-family members. To those people, Cho is their guardian angel. It was already evening when the two sisters arrived at the nursing facility. They were welcomed by the head nurse, who informed Cho that two families will drop by tomorrow, to discuss the memorial services of their dead loved ones, because two seniors passed away that afternoon. Cho talked to the head nurse for a few minutes, then went to the embalming room with Mi-young to see the dead bodies. She made sure that the doors are locked. After checking, the two sisters brought out their sharp steel-like claws, and cut the cadaver's chest all the way down to the stomach. Blood slowly gushed on the cold skin, as the insides of the dead bodies began to unravel before the widened eyes of the Cho and Mi-young. Their mild expressions have become wild, as saliva droops from their sharp teeth and mouth. Foxtails begin appearing behind their backs until both have 9. They immediately grab the livers and hearts of the bodies, and smother them until they are satisfied. The two sisters incinerated the corpses and placed the ashes inside separate urns. Cho, Mi-young, and their parents are all Gumiho. Their parents were killed by the townspeople when they were caught eating the livers of their victims one night. They were cornered then shot in the head multiple times, before being decapitated. Cho disapproved of the uncivilized and traditional method of killing victims, so she decided to migrate a century ago, and created her own style to live for thousands of years. She learned of the nursing facility, and seduced and killed men of power to gain immense wealth instantly. The nursing facility is the perfect place to have access to unlimited livers and hearts without raising any suspicions. After all, people placed here are good as dead. If only their parents weren't inclined in the old ways, they would still be alive today. Mi-young assisted her sister in running the facility. Every night, when the elders are asleep, they collect their life energies through the use of their fox beads. This makes their deaths even faster. More deaths means longer lives to the two sisters. As of today, they have different facilities across the state, with a promise to take care of you, until your dying breath. Noah is desperately steering the ski poles in every direction, as he maneuvers nervously along the snowy and steep path. The ski slope is being consumed rapidly by a roaring avalanche, turning it into an enormous pile of snow, ice, and rocks. Big slabs of ice are gaining on him, and it is just a matter of time until he gets buried alive. Noah's heart is racing abnormally. If he only listened to his mother earlier, not to go skiing in this type of weather, he would not be in this life-threatening predicament. He is losing all hope of living when he saw a grove of trees ahead. If only he can take cover at the back of the trees, then he'll have a chance of surviving. He put all his strength in his arms and steered with his life at stake. He was able to take cover at a hair's breadth. Then seconds later, the avalanche swallowed the whole area. Noah was buried under the thick snow. He gasped for air as he struggled his way up to the surface. He does not want to die during his middle school's winter break. He was suffocating, but he wants to cling to his dear life. He continued digging himself out of the avalanche. What lasted for a couple minutes of struggling, felt like hours and hours of agony and helplessness. Finally, with a stroke of luck and an unfaltering desire to live, Noah was able to set himself free. He gasped for air as he slowly crawled upward. His upper body strength has completely diminished to none. He slumped on the thick snow while catching his breath. After he gained a bit of strength, he decided to head back to the ski resort. It's already sundown, and he does not want his family to worry much further. The sun is beginning to fade, and the sky is being devoured by darkness. He was still nowhere near the ski resort. He was resting when suddenly, he heard his mother's voice calling him. He was filled with an abrupt delight. He asked where his mom is. His mother replied and said that she's behind the trees. She asked Noah to come quickly, to which the young man immediately obliged. He was almost at the trees when he heard someone calling his name nearby. When he looked, he got confused. It was his mother holding a flashlight. She's with his dad and some people from the rescue team. They all have torch sticks. But the odd thing is, they are also carrying rifles. Noah asked his mom how did she get there so fast, because just moments ago, she was just behind the trees. His mom's untroubled look of finding him, changed immediately to a dreadful and panic-stricken one. Her mom ordered him to get away from the trees as fast as he can, with a trembling voice. Noah got puzzled even more after seeing his mom's reaction. He was about to turn back, when he heard a loud growl or snarl from where he is standing. He looked at the direction of the sound. He immediately got scared and frightened at the horrendous sight before him. Standing just several feet away from him, is a creature he has just heard from fire camp stories and saw online. It's standing at almost 15 feet high. It has pointed ears with antlers or horns sprouting from its head, which makes it scarier. Its piercing yellow, glowing and sunken eyes, are staring at him intently. It is licking its long yellow fangs and razor-sharp claws, with its overly long tongue. Noah almost puked because of the sour odor of decay, coming from its yellow and ash-gray skin. The creature is thin and emaciated or skeletal. Its skin is stretched so tight over its body, that Noah could see all the bones clearly. One of the rescuers immediately fired a gunshot at the creature. The silver bullet was evaded as the creature took off at an incredible speed, leaving its stench lingering. Noah felt relieved and safe for the first time that day. He hurriedly went to his mom and dad, and hugged them tightly. He got a few scoldings from his mother, which is expected. He deserved it, he thought. They continued walking towards the resort. They were almost at their cabin when the air was suddenly filled with a decaying scent. Then, in just a split of a second, her mother screamed frantically as she loses her grip on Noah. They all saw her mom being dragged by the hair by the creature they saw earlier. The rescue team fired at the creature, but it was too fast. They all heard his mom's screams and cries fade in the calm night, as she is being dragged on the rocky snow. Noah's knees felt weak and he collapsed. He and his dad wanted to look for her, but the rescue team refused because it's too dangerous. They could end up losing all their lives as well. Noah sobbed heavily and kept blaming himself for what happened. If only he has not been stubborn, his mother will still be by their side. At the break of dawn, Noah, together with his dad, searched fervently for his mom. But to their horror, they found her torn clothes stained with blood. They continued searching meaninglessly until it was dark. Noah and his dad retired to their cabin, with devastated and despairing hearts, trying to accept the hard truth that they will never see his mom smile again. A year has gone by and it's winter break once more. He and his father went back to the same ski resort, where his mom passed away, to reminisce her memories. The day was calm, the sky is still, and no sign of winter storm coming. Noah decided to take a stroll where his mother went missing. He was walking through a grove of pine trees, when he heard an awfully familiar growl. He hurriedly ran to safety, but he tripped on a branch hiding beneath the snow and fell on the ground. The smell of decay and rotten skin grows nearer and nearer, then finally, as he lifted his head, he saw once more the creature that led his mom to her death. The creature raised its long and sharp claws into the air, ready to strike. Noah covered himself with his arms, trembling. He was waiting for his death, but he noticed that the creature suddenly stopped. When he looked, the creature is staring at him closely, inspecting his face. Then, it let out a loud cry of growl which echoed in the entire ski resort. It ran towards the mountains, all the way to the top, leaving him unscathed. Noah was extremely puzzled, but he was relieved to keep his life. But, there's one thing bothering him. The moment that he locked eyes with the creature, the feeling of fear, anguish, and terror, immediately turned into a feeling of longing, yearning, and love, for his mother. His heart can't stop beating. He was in shock and bewildered. He just hoped and prayed, that wherever his mom is, she knows that she is terribly missed and remembered. Even if she turned into, a Wendigo. Yotsuda Kaidan is a story of Oyola and Tamiya Yemen. It is a tale of betrayal, murder, and ghostly revenge. It's one of the most famous Japanese ghost story of all time, and has been adapted for film over 30 times. It continues to be an influence on Japanese horror today. Yemen is a ronin or masterless samurai. He killed the father of his wife Oyola, because her father was aware of Yemen's evil past deeds. Penniless, Yemen has been forced to make his living as an oil paper umbrella maker, in order to support his delicate wife and new child. This situation has led him to resent Oyola. Oyume, the daughter of a rich doctor, is in love with Yemen. They plotted to murder Oyola. Yemen slips her poison disguised as blood road medicine, intended to bring back her strength. The poison did not kill her, but instead disfigured her, causing her hair to fall out and her eye to droop. When a mirror is held in front of her, her despair at her disfigurement, and the knowledge of her husband's betrayal, causes her to die by accidentally piercing her neck with a samurai. Soon after that, Yemen marries Oyume, but on their wedding day, the avenging ghost of Oyola comes back to haunt the samurai and urges him, through hallucinations, to murder both his new wife and the father of the bride. There are other versions of the story, but one thing remains true, that the revengeful ghost of Oyola still lingers and haunts the human world today. Josh is excited to visit his cousin, Daniel, in Japan. When they were little, they were very close and considered each other as best friends. But Daniel's father was promoted and needed to be transferred to their Japan branch. It has been 5 years since Daniel's family left, but they still communicate constantly with each other. Both are in the last year of middle school now, and they always share their misadventures in their respective schools whenever they can. Josh's mom will have a business trip in Shinjuku City in Japan for a week. Fortunately, it coincided with his school vacation. It was sundown when Josh and his mom reached Daniel's home, which is also in Shinjuku City. Dan's parents suggested that they stay in their house to catch up. Also, it will be cheaper since staying in a hotel for a week would be costly. It was a fun and noisy reunion. Josh stayed at Dan's room, just like the old days when they used to have sleepovers. It was wee hours of the morning when they decided to sleep. But Josh is having a hard time sleeping. He can't stop thinking of the woman he saw in the Shinto shrine, when their taxi passed by earlier. The following day, Josh found himself alone in the house when he woke up. His mom is off to her meetings, Dan's parents are at work, and Dan has some errands to do. Josh decided to visit the Shinto shrine they passed by last night. The shrine is easy to locate because of the red banners visible from the street, bearing the shrine's name, which is Oyola Inari Tamiya. Josh entered the shrine and noticed a shiny golden plaque, which has writings in Japanese and English, telling of a woman, by the name of Oyola, who lived there 200 years ago. As he roamed the place, he saw small white fox statues. He remembered from one of his readings that foxes are messengers of Inari, the god of prosperity and success in the Shinto religion. He continued checking the place, then suddenly, he heard a woman crying inside the shrine. If he was not mistaken, that's the woman he saw last night. She is wearing a green kimono with a red sash or obi. The woman's face is almost covered by her long hair. She is combing her hair, which is now falling out, and piling at a tremendous height on the ground. Josh was bothered by the sight. Josh approached the woman and asked if she needs any help. The woman didn't make any response. But instead, she indignantly mumbled the words, "Yemen, Yemen." Josh felt shivers when he heard the woman's cryptic voice. It sounded like it came from a grave. Then all of a sudden, the wind blew stronger and fiercer. The woman's hair swayed with the air, exposing her pale and disfigured face. Josh screamed in terror when he saw the right eye of the woman. It was drooping or sagging. He immediately ran away from her and out of the shrine. He was running so fast that he didn't notice Dan approaching from an intersection. He bumped hard into his cousin, and both fell on the ground. Dan, a bit irritated, told Josh to look where he's going. He also asked why he's running so fast. Josh was relieved upon seeing Dan. Even though he's stuttering, he told every detail of what he had encountered just a while ago. Dan was in disbelief and told him that it's impossible, but Josh keeps on insisting it. Dan suddenly grabbed Josh's arms and they went back to the shrine, to which the latter hysterically opposed. But when they got there, Josh, who is still shaking, scratched his head in deep confusion. The shrine is closed. There are barricades in the entrance to prevent onlookers or passers-by from entering. Josh said that the shrine was open just minutes ago, and that he was actually inside where he saw the woman. Dan said that the shrine has been closed for a month now, and there is no news on when will it open again. He also added that Josh might be hallucinating, or his mind is playing tricks on him. Josh cannot wrap around his head on the current situation. He just followed Dan on the way home, and once they reached it, he went to Dan's bedroom and slumped on the bed to take a nap. When he woke up, he remained lying while staring at the ceiling. Whether what he experienced is true or not, he'll just shrug it off and remove it from his memory. With his mind cleared, he stood up and prepped himself for lunch. But the moment he was in front of a mirror, he freaked out. There are long strands of hair all over his clothes. The room temperature immediately dropped. Then, from the mirror's reflection, he saw the woman on top of his head, staring at him with her drooping right eye, saying, "Eamon, Eamon." He screamed hysterically. The woman's long hair began strangling him. He is hardly gasping for air to no avail. He is slowly losing his consciousness. Seconds later, everything went black. When he regained consciousness, he wondered why he was on the floor. He can't remember anything. He just saw strands of hair around his neck, and lumps of hair on his bruised hands. His mind may not remember, but his heart will never forget. Because up to this day, Josh's chest pounds incredibly fast, when he hears or reads the name, Oa. Lisa and Sandra are dormitory roommates in a state university, who are both seniors. Lisa is the partygoer, people person, and extrovert type, while Sandra on the other hand, is the total opposite. But despite their differences, they get along pretty well, that's why they have been roommates since their freshman days. This week has been an emotional roller coaster ride for them because Sandra will be graduating soon. Lisa has some credits left, so she needs to stay for one semester more before she can graduate. To celebrate Sandra's graduation, Lisa held a send-off party, to which the former begged off since she is not a fan of parties. But due to Lisa's persistence, her friend finally agreed. The celebration was set on a Saturday evening at a nearby bar, just 5 blocks away from their dorm. People swarmed the scene that night since Lisa is extremely popular, and also, a lot like to party. The night was flooded with a variety of cocktails. They had Cosmopolitan, Mojito, Margarita, Apple Martini, to name a few. Sandra was having a chat with one of her classmates when he noticed a middle-aged man, sitting in the bar, staring at her. The man is a stocky built and a rugged appearance. He's wearing a blue checkered long sleeves with a red tie around his neck, coupled with black khaki pants. He has a darting stare, which made Sandra extremely uncomfortable. She tried to ignore him, but he keeps on glancing wherever she goes. Sandra approached Lisa and told her that she will be heading back to the dorm. She is having a sudden migraine attack due to the loud noise, smoke and alcohol, which is true. She also told her about the weird man who keeps on staring at her. Lisa looked for the man, but he's nowhere to be found. She told Sandra that the man may have a crush on her, and such occurrence is typical in a bar. The man may have left and just went there for a quick drink. So Sandra just shrugged it off, then returned to their dorm. Lisa stayed and drank to her heart's content, but after stumbling a number of times due to drunkenness, she decided to call it a night. She was helped by her other classmates to go back to the dorm because she was too tipsy to walk by herself. She entered the room quietly because she might wake up Sandra, who was sleeping and completely covered in blanket. She did not also turn on the lights. She slowly tiptoed her way to the bed, then buried herself with the pillows. Lisa was still in deep slumber when she was awoken by Sandra's alarm. Maybe Sandra forgot to turn it off last night before she went to bed, she thought. She called Sandra, but there was no response. She called her again, but still. Silence. The alarm went on for several minutes. And when Lisa couldn't stand it anymore, she sprung from her bed restlessly, with eyes half closed, then walked barefooted towards Sandra's bed in a wiggly manner. She felt something sticky on her feet. She paused for a bit, then looked down. She saw a red and gooey substance. It's blood! She was shocked and horror-stricken at the sight of it. She panicked when she did not see Sandra on her messy blood-stained bed. But instead, she saw a trail of blood leading to the bathroom. When she entered, she screamed in terror. She almost lost her mind at the sight before her. It was Sandra, bathed in her own blood. Her lifeless body is leaning against the wall. Lisa couldn't believe what she is seeing. She was crying very hard. Her whole body is trembling in fear and shock. She's beginning to lose her head. Her mind is spinning. Then she saw something eerie on the mirror. It was a note, written in blood, which says, "Thank you for not opening the lights last night," with a red tie, drenched in blood, hanging beside it. It was a rainy Monday morning. I'm dead tired to get out of bed from playing online games last night. I was all alone in the house. My mom and dad left for work and my siblings are staying in their dormitories since this pandemic started. I got up lazily to prepare for my online class. I slowly opened my laptop on my bed, put on my headphone, and opened the program for class. 1, 2, 3. I counted in my head as I look at my screen, checking if all my classmates are on. Yup, 15 all in. I said to myself. Mrs. Jackson gave her usual instructions. She told us multiple times not to close our cameras, or freeze our screens, but we have to mute our microphones so we can hear her speak, and just open them when being asked a question. She was in the middle of her lesson, when suddenly, I heard a cracking sound from my headphone. I looked at my other classmates, and they seemed glued to Mrs. Jackson. I guess it's just static since it's raining, I told myself. So I ignored it. A few moments later, I heard the cracking sound again. My screen started acting weird. It was distorted. And then it froze. I was about to close my laptop when it suddenly closed by itself. For a few seconds, it stayed that way. Then suddenly, it turned back on, with my online class still on the screen, as if nothing happened. I was a little confused, so I chatted with my friend Kevin, who is also my classmate, in Messenger. Kevin left our session, but then I saw him waved at me with a confused smile, while looking behind me. I immediately felt goosebumps on my entire body. Why did he ask me to say hi to my mom? Why did he wave behind my back? I am all alone in the house! I dared not to look behind because I was starting to be afraid. I tried to focus on Mrs. Jackson's lesson. I'm hearing her. But, her words seemed garbled. I kept telling myself that Kevin just played another prank on me. I brushed off my fear and decided to focus on my class, so I just stared at the screen. But, what I saw on the reflection on the screen told me that this time, Kevin was not playing tricks on me. I saw a woman with long black hair. Her face was pale and she has black eyes and lips. She was wearing a white gown covered with dirt. I can't see much because I was too frightened to look at the reflection. I felt dizzy and lightheaded. I wanted to puke. My head is spinning. I thought I was passing out. Then, all of a sudden, I saw her about to reach for my shoulder. I panicked even more. I mustered all the courage left in me. I hurriedly ran outside of my bedroom. I didn't know where to go. At that time, I just wanted to get out of the house. I was running towards the front door when I tripped. I hit my head on the doorknob, then laid helplessly on the floor. I closed my eyes from immense pain and fear. When I opened my eyes to get up, I almost lost my breath. The woman was floating above me. I tried to shout, but no words came out of my mouth. I was in total horror. I tried to crawl, but I can't move. I was struggling very hard until I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was on my bed, and my mom was attending to me. She told me that I was on the floor with a bruised forehead. I told her that I was just playing around when I tripped. I didn't say anything about the old lady. She will never believe me. But, after that chilling incident, I didn't take my online class in my room anymore. Some of our classmates were not present in our online class that day. Sophia and Cassie went for a vacation for a month together with their families. They will be spending their time going to the different beaches somewhere in Southeast Asia. Surprisingly, Cassie was online, but her camera was off. I looked for Sophia, but she was not signed in. I sent a private message to Cassie asking her how was her vacation so far, but I did not get a response. My message was just seen. I didn't give it much thought and I just listened to my teacher. 2 classes have passed and Cassie was still online. Our class was almost finished when I noticed a message notification on my phone. It's from Sophia, and it was sent yesterday. Perhaps I overlooked her message because I was busy chatting with my friends. I did not know how to react when I was reading her message. I felt confusion and fear at the same time. Chills went down my spine. I was uneasy, I was frightened. Her message was, I kept reading Sophia's message over and over again. I still cannot believe the tragedy that happened because Cassie, or whoever or whatever it is, was still online. And she has been there since the class started. I was horror-stricken. I felt numb. I don't know what to do. Then suddenly, Cassie began calling me. Without any hesitation, I immediately closed my laptop and threw it on my bed. Then I ran off to where my feet dragged me. Our school hired Miss Thompson as a substitute teacher, because one of the teachers went on maternity leave. Since she was new in teaching, she wanted to make a good and lasting impression. Her first 3 online classes went great. The students from classes A to C participated and performed well. They seemed to enjoy the lessons she prepared diligently. But in Class D, things went sideways. The whole class did not participate in any way. She didn't even get a nod, or any small response from the students. They were just staring at her. But being a patient and caring teacher as she wants herself to be, she just shrugged it off and went ahead on teaching. A couple of days have passed, and Class D still showed the same behavior. So over the weekend, Miss Thompson went to Mrs. Jones' place, one of the permanent teachers and her mentor, to ask if Class D is also showing the same passive behavior in her class, and likewise, to exchange pleasantries. Mrs. Jones said that Class D is energetic, and that they always participate in every activity. It is also very unlikely that they remain silent, or lay back during discussion. She said that the class is always extra lively and energized because of Mark, Jordan and Bob, who are considered the class clowns. Miss Thompson was surprised by Mrs. Jones' statements, especially the last one. She said that there are no students that go by the names, Mark, Jordan, or Bob in Class D. In fact, there is only one male in Class D, with the name of Samuel. Mrs. Jones fell silent for a moment, as if lost for words. She looked for something in her bedroom, then showed a class picture to Miss Thompson. She asked if this is the Class D that Miss Thompson is talking about. Miss Thompson nodded and said yes, that it was indeed, the Class D that she has been teaching online for a week. Mrs. Jones fell hard on her chair, and clasped her mouth with her hands. She was shocked, frightened and in disbelief. Miss Thompson got baffled, confused, and started panicking. She asked her mentor what was wrong. Mrs. Jones composed herself for a moment, grasping her breath. She started crying. She said that this was the Class D last year. The picture was taken on the day of their field trip. Their bus fell off a cliff. No one survived. All the students died, including the driver and teacher. Last week was their death anniversary. Miss Thompson could not believe what she had learned. Her head started spinning from shock and terror. She got immensely scared. This whole time, she has been talking with dead people. She had a difficult time trying to grasp everything. But once she had a little composure, she called the principal and told her that she can't continue teaching because of a family emergency. But in reality, she vowed not ever to hold an online class anymore. I have always liked to experience staying at a haunted hotel. The anticipation of the unknown, and the expectation of tingling sensations surged through my body. I have browsed online for haunted hotels, and the Stanley Hotel came up in one of my searches. The hotel is located in Estes Park in Colorado. I went to their website and looked at their accommodations. I was excited to see what the hotel has to offer. All the spacious rooms have classic furnishings, the bedding are all handmade, and the Rocky Mountain views are majestic. All the rooms are naturally cooled by the mountain breeze, though they offer apartment-style rooms with air conditioning units. My family and I were planning our yearly family vacation trip that time. I suggested that we go to Colorado to get the fresh mountain breeze that we all need. I offered the Stanley Hotel, and told them a brief history of the place. My parents were slightly apprehensive at first. But when my father learned that Stephen King spent time at the hotel, he quickly agreed. Stephen King stayed at the same hotel, and he drew inspiration from it for his novel, The Shining. I have watched the film adaptation and it was a masterpiece. I booked their famous spirited rooms, rooms 401 and 407. Good thing that the rooms are available on our target dates. Days passed quickly, and we found ourselves traveling to the hotel. Lake Estes, the Rocky Mountains, especially the Longs Peak are feast to the eyes. After some time, we finally reached our destination, the Stanley Hotel. When we entered the lobby, we were welcomed by one of the hotel managers, George, who assisted us at the reception. My brother and I got the 401 room, while my parents stayed at room 407. We decided to use their in-house elevator, since my parents need no further walking. When the elevator opened, we were cheerfully greeted by the operator, Melvin. We went inside the lift with our heavy and enormous luggages. Then, I suddenly noticed a little girl at the right side corner. She was looking at the floor. Her head bowed down. Her face is covered by her long dark silky hair. I didn't notice her earlier when we entered the elevator. I felt chills. I really was not expecting to encounter any unworldly being or entity. I just tried to ignore the girl, and clung to my mom's shoulder. When we reached our floor, I thanked Melvin, then we stepped out. The little girl is still there. When the elevator door is closing, she suddenly looked at me with popping eyes, then smiled with her teeth exposed. My hair raised instantly. I just walked straight to our room. I didn't say anything to my parents or my brother. When we reached our room, I jumped on the bed and rolled on it. My brother went to the bathroom to take a shower, while I unpacked my things. I was in the middle of unpacking, when I heard something fall near the bed. I got startled. I walked slowly towards the bed, and saw the lampshade on the floor. I got scared. I returned it on top of the table, then continued what I'm doing. When my brother finished his bath, he hit me. I got irritated, and asked him why he did that. He said that I kept knocking on the bathroom door. I also kept yelling, "Let me in, let me in!" I got goosebumps. I said that I didn't do any of that. I told him about the lampshade. Both of us were stunned. I guess I got more what I've asked for. To get off our minds on what happened, we went on a hike and mountain climbing with some of the guests. It was physically draining, but it was worth it. My parents, on the other hand, booked a day tour at the hotel. After all our activities, we ate dinner in one of the restaurants, and helped ourselves with a sumptuous meal. My parents had a few drinks of whiskey, while my brother and I booked a night tour. The tour guide did a head count. He counted 8. We went to the different haunted areas inside and outside the hotel. It was a fun yet creepy experience. When the tour ended, our tour guide did a head count again. He was wondering because there is one person missing. He said that there are 8 guests who have signed up for the tour. But when I counted earlier, there were only 7 of us. The rest of the group confirmed that we were just the 7. The tour guide kept silent for a while, but his heavy breathing was noticeable. He just concluded the tour, and bid us farewell. My brother and I just looked at each other, and headed back to our room to retire for the night. Before going to bed, we opened our windows to let the mountain breeze come in. It's nice to sleep with the breeze comforting, and putting us to sleep. I was lying on my bed when I felt the breeze getting stronger. I was about to get up, when I saw my brother closing the window. But I was alarmed when I heard someone snoring. I looked at my brother's bed and there he was, covered in blanket. I immediately looked at the window. It was now closed. But the person I saw earlier, who looks like my brother, was nowhere in sight. I felt chills and just covered myself with blanket. The night went by slowly, as if it's trying to drag me back to yesterday. The following day, we had a great breakfast of various pancakes, waffle, omelette, salads and a lot more. After we ate, we fixed our things and checked out. We were putting our luggages in the car trunk, then I remembered that I left my cell phone charger in the room. I hurriedly went back to the room to get my charger, then used the in-house elevator to go down. The elevator stopped on the 3rd floor. The door opened but no one was there. I tried to close it, but it just stayed open. Then a red light lit up, indicating that the weight on the elevator was more than the weight limit. I was starting to panic. I kept pressing the close button, and finally, it closed. I was shaking and leaned on the wall. Then, all of a sudden, the lights were blinking. The little girl I saw yesterday suddenly appeared in front of me. She was smiling while staring at me. I screamed and went to a corner, with my eyes closed and my hands covering my face. I was in that position when someone tapped me on my shoulder, trying to console me. It was Melvin, the operator. I didn't even realize that I've reached the lobby. He said that it's okay now and there's no need to worry. He told me that I should have not used the elevator, since it's under maintenance. I apologized for not reading the sign. I thanked him again and ran back to the car. As we were traveling, I told my parents and my brother about the incident. I told them that it's a good thing that Melvin came to my rescue. They all looked at each other with puzzled looks. My brother told me that there was no operator in the elevator. I was speechless. I slumped on my seat, shaking a bit. I looked back at the Stanley Hotel as it slowly vanishes from my sight. Although I got terrified, it was a great experience that I'll treasure and tell for the rest of my life.